All right, buckle up, sports fans, because we're about to jump into a world of hurt. Well, maybe not hurt exactly, but definitely a world of change.
Change is right. We're diving deep into rugby this time, and let me tell you, they're really shaking things up over there.
We're talking rule changes, folks.
Yeah.
Big ones. The kind that could completely transform how the game is played.
And we've got a great piece to guide us here. From rugbypass.com, it's the hot zones referees will clamp down on during Autumn Nation series.
Written by Ian Cameron, a guy who clearly knows his scrums from his lineouts.
Absolutely. So even if you're not a rugby fanatic, stick with us. This deep dive gets into something way bigger than just one sport.
It's about how rules can shape the games we love, the constant push and pull between safety, fairness, and you guessed it, entertainment.
And rugby's right in the thick of it, trying to find that sweet spot.
We're talking referees cracking down on some seriously sneaky tactics, a 20-minute red card that's got everyone debating.
And get this, data that suggests these changes might actually be working. But the question is, working for the WM.
Ooh, that's the juicy part. And that's exactly what we're here to unpack. So let's kick things off with what the article calls contests in the air. Now, I'm no rugby expert, but I'm pretty sure that's more than just a couple of guys jumping for a frisbee, right?
Yeah. A bit more intense than that. So, picture this. The ball's kicked high, players are launching themselves upwards, trying to gain possession. Sounds pretty straightforward.
Sure, a classic aerial battle.
Right. Except things were getting a bit out of hand with, shall we say, creative blocking tactics. Players were basically obstructing their opponents, taking them out before they even had a chance to jump.
So it's not just about who can jump the highest anymore. It's about playing fair in those crucial moments.
Exactly. Imagine if in basketball you could just shove someone out of the way while they were trying to catch a rebound. Not cool, right? Well, rugby's trying to get rid of that kind of stuff.
And that's where the refs come in, right?
Right.
They're cracking down on these sneaky tactics.
Oh, absolutely. Tactics with fancy names like the escort and the truck and trailer. Sounds harmless, right? But it's basically about players creating a moving wall to shield their teammate who's going for the ball.
So less about skill and more about, well, being sneaky.
Right. And it's not just about being a good sport. World Rugby, the governing body, they're saying these stricter calls are designed to support open and unstructured play.
Okay, hold on. They actually use the phrase open and unstructured play. That sounds kind of vague. What does that even mean in the context of a rugby match?
I know, right? It sounds more like a philosophy class than a sporting event. But essentially what they're aiming for is more dynamic, unpredictable action. Less predictable set pieces, more opportunities for those crazy runs, the surprise attacks, the moments that make you jump out of your seat.
The kind of stuff that keeps fans glued to their screen.
Exactly. Think of it like .jazz.
Yeah.
There's structure, but there's also this incredible freedom within that structure. Players can improvise, react to each other, and create those truly magical moments.
And it sounds like these rule changes are all about bringing that jazz back to rugby.
That's the hope, anyway. But of course, with any big change, there are always complications. And this brings us to the most controversial one of all.
Oh yeah, the one I'm still scratching my head about. This 20-minute red card business. I thought a red card meant you're out of there, game over.
Right. Me too. It's a pretty fundamental concept in sports. You do something seriously wrong, you get penalized, you're out. But rugby's trying something different here.
So explain it to me like I'm 5. What exactly does this 20-minute red card entail?
Okay, so picture this. A player commits a really nasty foul. Usually straight red card, end of their game, right?
Right.
But under this new trial, they still get a red card, but their team only has to play shorthanded for 20 minutes. After that, they can sub in a replacement player.
So it's like a temporary timeout instead of a full-on ejection. Interesting. But the article did mention there are critics of this system. What are people's concerns?
Well, it's a tricky one, right? There's a big philosophical debate going on. Some folks are saying it's basically letting players off the hook too easily. Like, if you do something dangerous that warrants a red card, shouldn't the consequences be serious no matter what?
Right. Shouldn't you be held fully accountable for your actions? Makes sense.
Exactly. But the other side of the argument is all about fairness and entertainment. They say playing with a man down for an entire match can completely ruin a team's chances.
It's a huge disadvantage, for sure. Makes it pretty much impossible to stage a comeback.
And for the fans, it can make for a pretty boring game. Nobody wants to watch a lopsided match where the outcome is basically predetermined.
So it's a real balancing act. On the one hand, you want to punish dangerous behavior, but on the other, you don't want to ruin the game for everyone else.
It all boils down to what's the greater good, right? And that's what makes this 20-minute red card so fascinating to me. It's a real experiment in trying to find that sweet spot between safety and entertainment.
And luckily, it's not just based on gut feelings and opinions. This is where the data comes in, right?
You got it. World Rugby is actually tracking all sorts of stats to see how these changes are impacting the game, not just relying on anecdotes or what people feel is happening.
Hard numbers. That's the good stuff. So spill the beans. What are the stats telling us so far?
Well, first off, ball and play time has increased by over 2.5 minutes per game.
Whoa, that's a lot more action.
Right. And they're also seeing faster restarts after penalties and scrums. So less time wasted with players just standing around, more time with the ball actually in play.
So a faster, more dynamic game overall sounds like a win-win for the fans.
And here's the really encouraging part, the one that's got everyone excited. Concussion rates, which were a huge concern before, seem to be stabilizing.
So maybe those stricter calls are actually making the game safer for the players too. Now that's what I call progress.
Right. It's like they're finding a way to have their cake and eat it too. Less danger, more excitement.
It's making me wonder, is this just about rugby, or is there something bigger going on here? Are other sports watching this whole experiment unfold and taking notes?
Oh, absolutely. But this whole situation in rugby is like a microcosm of what's happening across many sports. It reflects a bigger trend of leagues trying to adapt and evolve to the changing times.
Because it's not just about the rules themselves, it's about what those rules represent. It's about finding that delicate balance between protecting the players and keeping the game exciting for everyone.
Right. And let's be honest, pleasing everyone is practically impossible. What works for one group might not work for another.
So it's this constant push and pull, this ongoing experiment in trying to find that perfect sweet spot.
Exactly. And that's what makes following these developments so fascinating. It'll be interesting to see how these rugby rule changes play out long term, won't it? Do they become permanent fixtures? Do other sports adopt similar strategies?
Who knows? Maybe this is the start of a whole new era in sports.
Maybe it is, and that's a pretty exciting thought.
Well, folks, this deep dive has definitely given us a lot to ponder. It's not just about scrums and lineouts, it's about the constant evolution of the games we love. It's about the struggle to find that balance between safety, fairness, and that all-important element of entertainment.
Rules shape the game, but they're not set in stone. They can change, they can adapt, and sometimes they can even lead to something truly revolutionary.
And that brings us to our final question for you, our listeners. What about your favorite sport? Are there any rules you would like to see changed? What would make the game better, safer, or just more darn exciting to watch? Hit us up with your thoughts because here at the Deep Dive, we're always game for a good discussion.